to the Fleche Wallonne as we join this magnificent race. 199 kilometres of racing today. The 78th edition of the midweek race, which started back in 1936. That first edition, 236 kilometres. As we look back over the last few winners of the Fleche Wallonne. There we are. Daniel Moreno was the winner last year. Joaquim Rodriguez, his teammate, the winner in 2012. Gilbert, who won the Amstel Gold at the weekend in 2011. And there we are, running through the rest of the previous winners, including the Tour de France winner, Cadel Evans, in 2010. Here's also a list then of the palmares by the different nations. Belgium way ahead with 38 wins, Italy with 18, and France, of course, with 8 previous victories. Running through the rest of them, Australia have also 1 victory up there on the board. So we're looking down across the relatively flat roads right now as we see the peloton, which has the long tail behind it, as these riders get themselves set up for the next climb on the horizon. Well, let's take a look at the course that they face today. They go out of Bastogne. They left there this morning at pretty early. It was 10:50. They race round. This time they have 3 climbs of the fearsome Mur de Huy. They've already been over 1 climb of that today. 3 climbs running in towards the finish, and the course is slightly different to that the riders faced last year. The final circuit is only 23.5 kilometres of racing, which means that the Mur de Huy at the end of this race comes much more quickly than it has done previously. Well, it's a lovely day here in Belgium. It's 17 degrees centigrade, which is very vastly different to what we're sometimes used to. And everyone by the roadside enjoying the atmosphere as the riders got ready for the sign-on this morning. There's a man who rode very well at the weekend, Jelle van Endert. He's got a little bit of a knee injury after he crashed. There is Rui Costa, the world champion, signing a few autographs. Mikko Kwiatkowski, there's Andy Schleck. Schleck will be looking for better fortunes. And the shot there of Vincenzo Nibali. So as we look across the flatlands here, as we get ready for the next climb on the horizon. Team Sky here with a lot of actually smaller team than normal. 6 riders taken to the start. There's AG Tour Le Mondiale. And there's last year's winner, Danny Moreno. Joaquim Rodriguez, he has recovered from that crash that he had, which was in Amstel Gold at the weekend, and the all eyes are on this man, Philippe Gilbert. So the peloton rolled out of Bastogne at 10:50 this morning. The sun on their backs, which is always motivational, gets the riders motivated. And here we go back to the first climb of the Mur de Huy, as we saw the 3-rider breakaway. Now this breakaway group has been established since just over the 20-kilometre point, as the riders made their way up through the throngs of fans. There are so many people already here on this climb. The pressure wasn't too powerful, and as they crossed the line at the top, the advantage of the 3 riders in the breakaway was just under the 6-minute mark. The tempo being set by BMC, also towards the front, Peter Kenyuk as well of the Team Sky. Well, this peloton has thinned down just a little bit now after the pressure of the previous climb of the Mur de Huy. So we'll just catch up with exactly what has been going on. 76.5 kilometres to go. The advantage now is 6 minutes and 20 seconds. And this three-rider breakaway, let's run through them for you so you know exactly who's involved in the action as we catch a glimpse of them now. Number 36 is Ramūnas Navadauskas. He is, of course, a stage winner in the Giro d'Italia. He's there in the middle of that three-rider breakaway. Riding strongly, a very, very good time trialist. He's also won team time trials in the Grand Tours. The man there at the back is, as you can see, got some sweat on the back, lots of salt showing through the jersey. Is the rider from the American squad of United Healthcare. That's Jonathan Clark of Australia. So Jonathan Clark, a third place in a stage of the Tour of Langkawi. He's been a professional since 2010 with this team. And he looked like he was struggling a little bit up the Muur de Huy, but the United Healthcare team, good to see them on the attack in this race already. There's the study of Ramūnas Navadauskas, and at the front here is a man who was on the attack at the weekend in the Amstel Gold, and that is Preben van Hekke. So van Hekke, very strong rider. Just keeping the tempo on. And Navadauskas pedaling a much smaller gear here than Preben van Hekke. And at the back is the Australian rider. So he's been a pro with this team since 2010, clicking their way through the gears, 75.2 kilometres of racing remaining. So we are approaching now the climb of the Côte d'Aref, and that is the next climb on the horizon. This will be the fourth climb of the day. In total today, of course, we have 11 different climbs that these riders face. The Côte d'Aref is 2.2 kilometres, 5.9% as an average gradient. And with 199 kilometres faced, very important all the time to preserve as much energy as you possibly can until the race really starts to hot up. And you want to have something left in the tank if you possibly can, to enable yourself to go on the attack on the Muur de Huy. It's going to be an interesting run-in today because the fact that last year the finishing circuit was over 30 kilometres, this time it's 23.5, and with the fact that the Muur de Huy is there means that it could be used as a springboard for one rider to go on the attack or a little group to try and actually get away. So we'll be interested to see how the run into the finish is played out, whether any riders decide to go on the attack and try and a little forge a breakaway so that when they get back onto the climb in the Muur de Huy, they have a little bit of an advantage on the peloton. It's been a long, long time since we saw any rider solo to victory in the Fleche Wallonne, this traditional midweek classic. The last rider to do that was Igor Astaloa. So we'll see whether there are any major attacks as we head in towards the conclusion of this race. 6:26 now for this breakaway group, as we can see them with lovely blue skies in the background. A little bit of spray on the lens, that is purely coming off the water bottles, or someone sprayed it from the side of the road. It's not going to be one of those days where we are going to see too much rain at all, I don't think. There was the possibility we were going to have showers during the time of between about 1:30 and 2 o'clock, but that seems to have come to absolutely nothing. So it looks like we are destined for pretty decent weather all the way into the finish of Fleche Wallonne. There are some storms promised at the end of the day, but it looks like we're going to have a magnificent race. And the fans who have been out here since first thing this morning are going to certainly enjoy themselves. They will see the women's race finish. And the women's race will finish not too long now. I watched the women race up here earlier on today. The front of the race was held by Emma Pooley, Ashley Moolman of the high-tech team, Also towards the front was Elisa Longoborghini, and the World Cup leader Lizzie Armistead was also towards the front of that race, as was Emma Johansson, who rides for the Australian Orica AIS team. The peloton then onto the Côte d'Aref, the fourth climb of the day, 5.9%. And it's BMC who are setting the tempo, putting one rider on the front of this race so far, just to keep things under control. For, of course, Philippe Gilbert, who won the Brabant-Chapillon last week. Then he won Amstel Gold. He's looking now to take the victory in the Fleche Wallonne. If he can do that, that would set up the hat-trick of victories of the Amstel Gold, the Fleche Wallonne and Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Gilbert became only the second person to take the honours of winning all three of those classic bike races when he won this race back in 2011. And now he's looking to do the triple yet again. But we'll see what happens. An awful lot can happen before the end of the Fleche Wallonne. Thank you very much for joining us today as we bring you this live coverage of the midweek classic that is Fleche Wallonne, 199 kilometres. Johan van Zyl now of the MTN team starting to find the tempo just a little bit too hot. Looks like we're seeing a few riders making their way back into this peloton now. A few riders got dropped on the Mur de Huy earlier on today. Just to bring you up to date then with a couple of crashes that happened earlier. So just to bring you up to date with any crashes or anything that's happened so far in the race, just in case there's any of the favourites who you might see later on maybe not performing the way we would be expecting them to. Danny Moreno actually crashed pretty early on today, so he had a problem. In that crash early on was also Andy Schleck. So Schleck has already hit the deck today. And one rider also that we think has now retired from the race is Jenison. So we've lost some riders along the route already. But these three riders are riding strongly. They're pressing on now, and their advantage still being maintained at 6 minutes and 15 seconds. .70 kilometres still remain, and it really is one of those races where you just get more and more tired of the climbs as we run in towards the finish. Just to bring you up to speed with the next few climbs, so we've going up the Côte d'Aref, then we've got the Côte de Belair, which will come up not too long. It's a 1 kilometre climb. The Côte de Buisseau, which is at 151 kilometres of racing today. The Côte de Bussal at 154, the Côte d'Ahine. The next climb of the Mur de Huy will be at 175.5 kilometres, so just 23.5 kilometres from the finish. We then zoom down off that top of that climb over the Côte d'Aref at 188.5 kilometres gone, and then we race straight up the Mur de Huy at the finish of the Fleche Wallonne. So teams represented at the front then, in the blue and the lime green, Movistar, Lotto Belisol, looking after the interests of their team. Katusha with two previous winners in the race today, Moreno and Rodriguez. Up towards the front for BMC. One rider joining in on the chase. Right at the back there, Johan van Zyl looks like he's recovered enough to just try and stay in the wheels. So he'll be with the peloton for just a little bit longer. Kenny De Catali was over there on the right-hand side. So the tempo being set now by Lotto Bellassol with Sander Armi, who is the rider on the front. Looking through the rest of the riders, just to pick out a few of them for you. Mikko Kwiatkowski is towards the front. Andy Schleck is riding pretty well now for the Trek Factory Racing team. His brother is alongside him, or actually just behind him now. Over on the right hand side is Boy Van Poppel of the Trek Factory Racing team. And these three riders now starting to up the tempo a little bit and seeing if they can hold this peloton off. 6 minutes and 8 seconds now the advantage. 69.2 kilometres of racing remaining. Preben van Hekke sitting there in the middle of the trio, second in Etoile de Bessèges in his career. Rides for Topsport Vlaanderen. Navadauskas has been on very good form already this season. As we make our way past some of the stunning buildings that are in this area. Drove through Liège this morning, and the main road running into there has got some absolutely incredible properties. Sander Armi still on the front of the peloton, keeping the tempo nice and high. 6 minutes and 6 seconds. We're talking about Navadauskas then. He's already won the Pays de la Loire in 2014, so already on form and been a professional since 2001 with the Garmin team. We're in the Namur province now. As you can see, the tempo very much up in this peloton. One long line as these riders set the pace at the front, but more riders have come back into this front peloton now. So swelling in numbers as we head towards the climb of the Côte de Belair, which will be crested at 55.5 kilometres from the finish. So Navadauskas on the front as he turns left with already that one victory of 2014. The Garmin team today pretty strong actually, but I just noticed as they went over the Muur de Huy for the first time that one rider I expected to be right up there at the front, Tom Jelte-Slagter, the Dutch rider, was struggling at the back of the peloton. Rider Hazedal was also feeling the tempo a little bit, but as far as Garmin are concerned, Dan Martin is the team leader today, wearing number 31. Thomas Dekker is also in the squad. Nathan Haas, who was on the attack towards the end of the Amstel Gold. Rider Hazedal, Alex Howes, Tom Jelte-Slagter, Fabian Wegmann, and the rider who's on the attack, Navadauskas. So it was a perfect study there as they went out of that corner as to what happens if you are on the back of the peloton. At the front here, the pace is relatively quick, but it's not too bad. This is Josh Edmondson of Team Sky, just shaking his head. He's obviously had enough today. Team Sky with only 6 riders: Pete Kenyon, Nathan Earl, Josh Edmondson there. I don't know if he's going to go back to the team car or whether he's got a problem. David Lopez, Danny Payton, Ben Swift are the squad for Team Sky today. So looking through the peloton, 66.1 kilometres of racing remaining. Trek have a lot of riders in there at the front. Bob Jungels also is near the front. So he is obviously enjoying being in this area, riding the Fleche Wallonne. It's going to be interesting to see when these teams decide to really start to chase. 65 kilometres, 6 minutes and 4 seconds. There is Jonathan Clark. We've talked about him a little bit already. The Australian rider who is sitting there. He is obviously feeling the heat today, even as an Australian. Should be used to the kind of heat that these riders will endure, but he's certainly been sweating an awful lot. He's going to have to really watch his intake of salts over the next couple of hours of racing. Preben van Hekke has obviously recovered very well from his exploits of the weekend. On the back there then, Jonathan Clark finished 14th in the Tour of Langkawi, where he was third on a stage in 2014 already. He's finished twice in the top 15 in the Tour of Langkawi. Back in 2007 he was in 15th place there. His season has consisted so far of the Tour de San Luis, the Tour of Langkawi. He rode Coppi e Bartali. He also rode the Limburg Classic. Didn't finish that. Didn't finish Brabantse Peel the other day. But obviously feeling an awful lot better. He's already raced 3,160 kilometres in his legs before the start of today's race, as he concentrates on the job in hand, staying in that breakaway, taking the pressure off any other rider United Healthcare might be looking for to do something at the end of this race. But I think really, in terms of their exploits in Fleche Wallonne, they'll be purely looking to make sure that they have a rider on TV in the breakaway all day. So they've achieved that. There's a number of riders and teams in here who'd like to have achieved that. But the attacks are absolutely furious at the beginning of these races. The police, I don't know whether this police bike has gone off the road or whether he was just having a little bit of sunshine time. There is rider Hazedal, the back here, the winner of the Giro d'Italia previously. Making his way back into the peloton, taking a drink. He is sitting very close to the back. Josh Edmondson has made his way back into the peloton as well. Edmondson then obviously recovering, having looked like he was just shaking his head. He'd had enough. And for the first time I catch a glimpse of Joaquim Rodriguez. So a few of the favourites now making their way towards the front of this peloton. 63.5 kilometres of racing remaining. 5:56 now is the advantage for the breakaway group. The Côte de Bel Air will be just in front of us soon, in around about 5 or 6 kilometres time. We're going to hit the base of that climb. And this looks to me like the Chateau d'Altine as we fly over the top of it. Great landmarks in this area around the Mur de Huy. Well, you can certainly see the tempo is being increased all the time. Bob Jungels over there on the right-hand side, the Luxembourg champion from Trek Factory Racing. Can always pick him out. That kit very, very easy to spot. And with them, Andy Schleck towards his right-hand side. Frank Schleck also. And Bob Jungels could be an interesting day for him as we head in towards the conclusion of the race. .554 then the advantage. It's so different, isn't it? You look at the breakaway group and the tempo has been nice and steady as they hold off this peloton at 5:55. And at the back of this group there are riders absolutely holding on because the pace is being upped all the time. Kenny Di Catale of Top Sport Vlaanderen is on the back of the group. Let's have a look and see who's towards the front now. Movistar are starting to up the tempo just a little bit. Over there on the left-hand side is the British rider Ben Swift, as Rui Costa asked him to go through and just keep the tempo going up. Swift, of course, was on the podium of Milano Sanremo just a few weeks ago in his first edition of the race. Well, Preben van Hekke doing an amazing job for his team over the last few hours of racing that they've competed in. The Top Sport Vlaanderen team comprises today of Victor Campinet, Kenny Di Catale, Peter Jacobs, Elliot Lieta, Thomas Sprengers, Arthur van der Berg and Peter van Spreybroek. That's the team of the Top Sport Vlaanderen today. This peloton has certainly merged all together. So we are not seeing groups spread all over the countryside. Now, not too far away from me today, just sitting in the next little commentary booth. Absolutely wonderful to see Laurent Jalabert, the winner of this race in 1995 and 1997. So he's commentating not too far from me today. Always wonderful to see riders who've won these races back here in the commentary boxes. He's looking incredibly dapper as well in his suit, so he's commentating away, keeping everyone entertained as to what's going on French television. Sander Army, still the rider on the front then, keeping this tempo nice and high. The camera getting right in to see these riders very, very close to them. Wonderful to see the pictures that these cameramen can actually get. There is Andy Schleck. Did an interesting interview over the last 24 hours, and it's almost like him just trying to justify his place in this team and saying, you know, I was Andy Schleck and I want to come back and do what Andy Schleck used to do. So I think Andy Schleck is getting better and better all the time on his return to racing. It's taken him a long time to come back, as we see the arrival of the Belkin team over on the right hand side there in the lime green with the black shorts. Also moving up now are the Tinkoff Saxo team with the colours yellow and blue. They will be welcoming back, I'm sure, Michael Rogers to their team, who today, if you haven't heard, was announced that he can return to competition. Michael Rogers was being investigated for clenbuterol use, and it's been found that when he was in China racing, that the contamination of the food that he had been eating meant that he had clenbuterol in a sample that was taken in the Japan Cup. And so Michael Rogers now will return to racing. It has been decided that his clenbuterol use was as a result of contaminated food while racing away. He's put a statement out today, and we'll see Michael Rogers return to racing with the Tinkoff Saxo team, I'm sure, over the coming few weeks. Will probably take him a little bit of time until he is firmly back in the peloton. Towards the back of the group then are some of the Colombian riders. Fabian Diaz is number 173. Just in front of him is Darwin Pantoja. Now that team has got Edwin Avia in the Colombian team today. If you're a fan of track racing and you haven't and you were watching the Track World Championships from Colombia, you may remember what was the most amazing points race I think I've ever watched. And Edwin Avia was the winner of the points race in Colombia. We were over there in Cali just a few weeks ago now, and Avia is back racing here. Where's number 171 for this Colombian team? The peloton were trying to decide which side of the road to go on. There we're looking down on number 91, Philip Gilbert. Gilbert, the winner of this race in 2011. His palmares speak for themselves as far as Fleche is concerned. He was third in 2012, sixth in 2010, fourth in 2009. And today he wants the double. He wants to win the Amstel Gold and the Fleche Wallonne in the space of a few days. The pressure is still very much on. Lamprey over there on the right-hand side with their squad. Rui Costa, Mattia Bono, Mattia Cataneo, Damiano Cunego, Christian Jurasek, Nelson Simoes, Diego Ulissi and Rafael Valls-Ferry. Another rider finds the pace a little bit too much. Lauren Mangel of FDJ is now dropped on the climb. .1 kilometres remain, the advantage 4 minutes 34. If you've just joined us now, let's remind you of what's been going on. 3 riders on the attack. Ramunas Navadauskas of Garmin Sharp, Preben van Hekke of Top Sport Vlaanderen and Jonathan Clark. Those 3 riders, their maximum advantage today has been 8 minutes and 45 seconds. The opening hour was 49.4 kilometres of average speed. In the first hour, it was really rapid until the breakaway got established. And at the end of the second hour, the average speed was 45.2 kilometres an hour. So things had calmed down a little bit after that initial massive amount of attacking that went on before Navadauskas, Van Hekke and Jonathan Clark got established. Well, if you'd like to tweet me at Ant McCrossan, and I'll take some of your tweets during today's broadcast. 50 kilometres to go, 4:27. Katusha taking control. The women's race will be finishing soon. I won't tell you what the result is because we will show you a little bit of the women's race just before the end of the broadcast today. So we will for sure bring you a little bit of that and the women's podium as well. The tempo very much fast as the riders go across the top of the Côte de Bel-Air. 49 kilometres to go. That climb is just 6.8% of gradient. The Muur de Hoy, of course, is 26% at its maximum. One of those corners when you come up and try and even walk up it is absolutely nigh on impossible to get round that 26% gradient. It's very, very steep indeed. There are thousands and thousands of fans on this Muur de Hoy this afternoon. They're enjoying the beer, the frites, and enjoying the atmosphere. They're getting ready to greet the women riders across the line. And it won't be long until we get the chance to see them in front of the commentary box. Downhill then with the peloton into the Aero Tux, 70 k's an hour as we go whistling our way downhill. There's so many riders in this peloton who could win today's Fleche Wallonne. We'll run through a few of them just so we've got a good idea of exactly who is in with a shout, who we think might be some of the favourites, and of course you can let me know who you think might be the favourites, as well as we enjoy the pictures and the scenery over the next couple of hours, maybe the next hour or so, maybe an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes. 4:18, the gap is certainly starting to come down now. The pressure being exerted by Movistar and BMC and many other teams. And they really want to try and bring this under 3 minutes if they can before the next climb of the day, which will be the Côte de Bourseau. That's 1.3 kilometers. It's an average gradient of 7.6%. They're enjoying themselves, aren't they? 4:12 now is the advantage for this breakaway group. There are fans dressed up all over the place. And on the front now come Trek Factory Racing. Trek Factory Racing now starting to mass at the front of this race. And Andy Schleck and Frank Schleck. Well, Frank Schleck looks to me like he's certainly a rider on good form today. And now we're seeing the one rider dropping away, Jonathan Clark. He does look like he's been sweating an awful lot. So Clark has now been dropped with 47 kilometers of racing remaining. It looked to me like he was really starting to find the heat a little bit too much. "47 kilometers, 4 minutes is the advantage." And it looks like Jonathan Clark's now time at the front of this race is over. So he'll make his way back to the peloton. And he will be reeled in. And I think he'll be proud of what he's achieved for the United Healthcare team today. So 2 riders now on the attack. If you're just joining us, it's Preben Van Hekke and Navadauskas. Preben Van Hekke and Navadauskas will now race away and see if they can hold off this peloton for as long as possible. 3:53 is the advantage for these 2 breakaway riders. The women's race is now coming to a conclusion. It's a very, very good finish as the riders sprint for the finish line now, and we'll bring you the result of that in a little while. So 3:51, 46.5 kilometers to go. And Jonathan Clark now has lost already 38 seconds. So these 2 riders are really starting to move on now. 36 at the front there is Navadauskas, a bottle being taken on by Preben Van Hekke. And the team car comes up. You'll notice that the team car feeding the riders, sharing the workload out to make sure that everyone gets bottles, because this temperature is getting hotter and hotter all the time. There's not much wind around either, which means that recovery is very, very difficult. And we're really now starting to get to the point in this race where we will see the race favourites make their way to the front and start to chase this race down and put the team leaders in with a shout of taking the victory. Over the top of the next climb of the day, 45.5 kilometres to go. And that is the climb of the Côte de Boussole. That climb 1.7 kilometres, an average gradient of 4.9%. Preben van Hekke is not giving up, and he did the same at the weekend. There is Jonathan Clark. He's been given a couple of gels in the back pocket to keep him going. The team car will always make sure their rider is looked after, so giving him some energy to keep him going. Doesn't want their rider to go really deep and get into all sorts of difficulty. As we see Katusha now really massing at the front of this race. They've got a fantastic team in the Fleche Wallonne today, with last year's winner Danny Moreno, Gianpaolo Caruso, Alexander Kolobnev will be a rider that of course in the Amstel Gold at the weekend we saw him very much involved in the action on the run into the finish with Jakob Fuglsang and other riders on the main attacks of the day. Dmitry Kozonchuk is also in there, Alberto Losada, Andrew Vicioso, Edward Vorganov, and the previous winner of this race, Joaquim Rodriguez. So Katusha can certainly keep this race. Onto the Côte d'Ahine, which is the run-in climb to the finish of Fleche Wallonne, the 8th climb of the day. Takes the riders to 223 metres. Navadauskas looks across at the camera, a big puff there. Doesn't look like he's enjoying the breakaway now. Really sweating on those arms. It's very warm. Behind them, Movistar starting to ratchet up the tempo. It's incredible how some of the riders are just having to drop out completely of the string of riders, just finding the tempo really high. And Movistar just trying to soften things up a little bit now, looking for Valverde to come through with the goods later on. This is the chateau that is on the climb, being magnificently tended to. And the pace really is starting to get very, very quick now in here. Another rider feels the pace, and that is Nelson Simoes of the Lampre team. He drops off. Another rider who's about to go is Ignatas Konovalovas. Number 12 now goes as well, and that is the Team Sky rider Nathan Earl, another Australian. Well, the Movistar team are using one rider, then using them up, letting them go. The Spanish champion now on the front. We've also got John Gadry in here, the Frenchman, who could be a rider that might surprise us today. He's very, very good on these little punchy climbs. More riders just dropping off. It is incredibly quick now. Well, 8 climbs in this temperature. It's starting to get towards the 20 degrees point. Another rider feels the pace. This is Bruno Pires, the Portuguese rider. Alongside him is Michael Koch, the German. And I think we're going to end up at the top of this climb with maybe 40 riders left in Fleche at the front of the race. It is an incredible pace now being set by Movistar. Valverde just sitting about 20 wheels back as we go over the crest of the Côte d'Ain. On the horizon now, the climb of the Mur de Huy and this final 23.5 kilometre loop. Very, very different to last year's race. Much has been talked about the changes. You can tell how hot it is, but the fact that riders are now pouring water onto their legs just to try and cool the temperature down a little. Katusha still have strength in numbers, Lamprey, but you can see the mouths on these riders wide open, gulping in some oxygen. The study of Alexander Kolobnev, a former winner of the Strada Bianca. On the front there, wearing number 55, setting the tempo, is the Spanish champion, Jesus Herrada. Well, Valverde's obviously said to him, go to the front, try and set the pace so that a few of our rivals hurt. Gilbert looking around to see what's going on. Behind him is Kwiatkowski. They're aware that not many riders are going to be able to live with this. Not far down in front of the world champion is Bennett Incausti, a winner of the Tour of Beijing last year with a magnificent performance. Another gap gets left, so it looks like we might have a little bit of a split starting to happen. 33 kilometres to go. The advantage to the two leaders. Don't forget about them. 2 minutes and 22 seconds. Our two leaders, Ramunas Navadauskas and Preben van Hekke. Navadauskas, I'm sure, will be out, but just asked, try and keep this gap open as long as you possibly can. Three Katushas lining up. The next rider from the Lamprey team in the wheels is Rafael Valls. Also up there for them is Damiano Cunego. All the Tinkoff Saxo team lined up. And now we get an attack, a little bit of an escape party going it alone to just try and put the rest of these teams under a little bit of pressure now. They don't like the tempo that's being set by Movistar and by Katusha, but Katusha look like they're going to ride this one down now and make sure that everything comes back together. A little bit of a headwind going on here. And on the front of the group it is Angel Vicioso, the Spanish rider from Katusha, who's in a pretty big gear, just trying to bring this race back together, and he does. He catches the two riders who had made a little bit of a move. And again, it is looking okay. It was Jan Bakelans of Omega Pharma Quickstep who had gone on the move as Rui Costa, the world champion, moves up to talk to the rest of his Lamprey team. A good signing that was by the Lamprey squad before Rui Costa went and won the world championships. They had signed him already. Cyril Gauthier is also near the front as we see Frank Schleck moving up with Bob Jungels. Jungels now to keeping Frank Schleck out of trouble. We now get the arrival of number 96. Take a look, there is Amiel Moynard. He'll be looking after Philip Gilbert. Burkhardt you can always pick out for BMC. He's always got yellow shoes on compared to the rest of his squad. And now we're going to turn left with the advantage of 157 for the two breakaway riders. Navadauskas on the front. Thanks for your messages on Twitter. I know that we know the result of the women's race, but I'm just keeping it just in case anyone out there is managing not to see the result. It was a fantastic finish. I'm just trying to keep the element of secrecy for anyone who doesn't want to know what has happened in the Women's World Cup here in the Fleche Wallonne, the 17th edition of the Women's World Cup, the 78th edition of the men's race. This weekend we've got Liège-Bastogne-Liège, which is the 100th edition of the fantastic classic bike race. So a little bit of an anniversary. Oh, we've got a problem here for one of the YAM cycling team. This gap coming down very, very fast. Looks like Movistar and Katusha do want this gap to be less than a minute at the bottom of the Mur de Huy, as we see Matthias Frank, the Swiss rider from YAM Cycling, trying to make his way back in, adjusting his brakes. He'll get himself back into the cars and he will move forward and go back to the peloton as quick as he possibly can. Tempo now being set by the Luxembourg champion there with the red, white and blue top, the little black on the sleeve, Bob Jungels. Behind him is Schleck. Over on the right hand side, the world champion Rui Costa. Now the arrival of Burkhardt for BMC. Looked to me like one rider from Topsport Vlaanderen had to bunny hop onto the pavement at the side of the road. It's quite fast downhill now for a little while until we hit the final climb. There are thousands and thousands of fans on the Mur de Huy this afternoon. And oops, a little bit of vibration going on there from the carbon deep section wheels of Preben van Hekke. He overcooked that corner a little. So there is the Belle Maison de Marchand. The riders will just race past there. Some riders may be feeling okay and get the chance to have a look. Others won't even know that it existed. They'll be going so quick and trying to stay in the wheels of the rest of this peloton. It's a real cosmopolitan feel on the Mur de Huy this afternoon. So many different flags, different accents, different nationalities have come out here to Belgium for this midweek race. 1:55 now being shown by the blackboard. We get asked sometimes as to how they know what the time gap is, and there's two ways that they know what the gap is. They will either take it from Radio Tour, and at the moment I have Radio Tour in my ear during the commentary, or sometimes, depending on radio communications, the motorbike will stop at the side of the road, go back to the manual system, just click through the stopwatch, write the advantage on the board and go and show it to both the peloton and the breakaway group. Let's just make sure this peloton gets safely round this complete 180 hairpin turn. Stunning shots when the sun is out like this. And the peloton being led by Trek Factory Racing. Meanwhile, the last rider in the peloton is from Trek Factory Racing as well. Bob Jungels onto the aero position, just resting the forearms on the front of the handlebars. Not far now. Get ready for the Muur de Huy. The fastest speed we've seen in the last few years on the final climb has been Philippe Gilbert with a time of 2 minutes and 44 seconds. Rui Costa looks very, very good today. We remember that run into the finish last year in the World Championships. It had been an absolutely terrible day, pouring rain. Joaquim Rodriguez on the attack, Valverde with Rui Costa. And Costa was so cool, calm and collected. As we see Matthias Frank of Yam Cycling making his way back up to the peloton. Another couple of riders dropping off. Frank trying to get there before the base of the Muur de Huy, which is going to be a tough ask. He's going to be breathing really heavily by the time he hits the lower slopes. So get ready now, we are almost there. If you've never been on this climb, 1.3 kilometers, average gradient is 9.3%. But on one of the corners it is 26%. It's absolutely fearsome. It puts you right in the hurt box, there is no doubt about it. Two riders trying to come back, and Matthias Frank's got a little bit of assistance here. One of his teammates coming back to help him in, and I don't know if he's going to have time to relax. Reto Hollenstein is the rider from Yam Cycling who is absolutely giving it everything, but the pace in this peloton is absolutely scintillating right now. Still the two attackers, Navadauskas and Preben van Hekke. Van Hekke's Palmares brought second on the Étoile de Bessèges overall, a second in Grand Prix Stadt Zottegem, third overall in Étoile de Bessèges in 2007, and fourth in Hel van het Megaland in 2007. He's ridden for Topsport Vlaanderen since 2009. Before that, he was with the Chocolade Jacks team, which reincarnated into Topsport Vlaanderen. And previous to that, since his professional signing in 2004, he was with the Relax Bodysol team and the various incarnations of Lotto, so the Vitamin Lotto and Predictor Lotto. Been a pro since 2004. Always relied upon to go on the attack for the Topsport Vlaanderen. Van Hekke leading his way up the climb. Navadauskas in second place for the Garmin Sharp team. You can hear the dulcet tones of Daniel Manjas in the background here. The voice of the Tour de France. Preben van Hekke still riding well. Navadauskas sitting down, a bit more of a grimace on that rider's face. But there are thousands and thousands of people on this famed climb. Coming up to this really steep corner. The camera never ever does this race justice as far as the steepness of this climb is concerned. If you ever get the opportunity to be here, come and see Fleche Wallonne. It is a great atmosphere. Tim Vellens now moves up on the left. He was animated in Amstel Gold. As we see Gerardo again going to the front. In the green is Cyril Gauthier of the Eurocar team. Dan Martin looks to me like he's recovered from the previous problems he had just a few days ago. Now we're on to the steep section. Preben van Hekke leading Navadauskas. Navadauskas staying in the saddle the entire way up the climb. Katusha with Danny Moreno on the wheel of Gauthier. Over there on the left-hand side is Rodriguez. Rodriguez, a couple of wheels back, is Dan Martin, who's looking good. Oh, look at Kwiatkowski. There in the white and red, the Polish champion looks so easy. He looks like he's not using any energy whatsoever. We see Gerardo now go on the attack on the climb of the Muur de Huy, followed very, very quickly by the rider from Eurocar, Cyril Gauthier. Certainly some moves starting to happen. There's a few riders who won't see the front of this race again. So Herada on the right-hand side. Gautier making a massive move now, being chased down by Alexander Kolobnev, who's trying to go across to them. Moreno looks easy. Tim Vellens is the next rider going across. Not far back is there is Gilbert gritting his teeth. Behind him Kutowski. Behind him is Dan Martin. Can't see Valverde quite yet. There's some real grimaces now as these riders continue up this climb. It is an epic climb. The two leaders just go past my commentary box. Behind them, with 23 kilometers to go, is Cyril Gautier. Is going to be the next rider to crest the summit. Kolobnev, you can always tell him he's got such a tan with the pure white teeth as they make their way up now after 4 hours, 3 minutes and 37 seconds of racing. It is going to be an elite group of riders who are going to now make their way off the front. And it's definitely rider 204, and that is Gautier, followed by Moreno, followed by Wellens. Behind them is Rodriguez. Close to the front also is Jan Bakelans of Omega Pharma Quickstep. And a couple of riders still looking very, very easy in the group. Moreno actually is a bit further back, so apologies, it's not Moreno near the front. He is about 20 riders back from the emergence of that breakaway at the front of the group. Well, Tom Jelter-Slagter is suffering a little bit for the Garmin Sharp team. Fabian Wegmann also. Many riders are a lot further back on this climb. They've lost a fair amount of time. Linus Gerdemann of MTN Quebeca is the final rider in what we'll call the peloton over the top of the Muur de Huy, followed by all the team cars. Good to see Linus Gerdemann, the German rider, back up and racing for the MTN Quebeca team. So let's take a look then at the damage that's been done. It's this Frenchman who is really stretching this race out now. He's such a good climber, Cyril Gautier. Don't forget though, we still have the two leaders, Navadauskas and Preben van Hekke. The race really being stretched now. Gautier trying to go it alone. Gautier's had quite a good season so far. If we look at what he's done, he was 6th overall in Paris-Nice. He's already finished 2nd in the mountains classification of the Tour of the Med. Jan Bakelans moving up. There's Kwiatkowski. He looks so focused and easy today. He's the rider in white with the flecks of red, riding for Omega Pharma Quickstep. He's got black shorts compared to the red of Katusha. The arrival now of Astana with Vincenzo Nibali, the winner of the Giro d'Italia last year. That magnificent win into Brescia after controlling the race, making sure that he took all the key stages. There is Linus Gerdemann. In front of him is Thierry Hupond of France, riding for the Giant Shimano team. The next rider there is Thomas Damaso, and the rider on the front is Stef Clement, the former Dutch time trial champion. 20 seconds now, the deficit for Gautier on these two leaders. 35 seconds on the peloton, and only 20 kilometers remain. We are going to go over the Côte d'Aref with 10.5 kilometers to go. So another 10k of relatively rolling steady roads before we hit the penultimate climb of the 11 climbs that make up Fleche Wallonne. Gautier's little escapade is now brought under control by the Stana team. And as soon as he has, he decides in fact, that's Roman Sicard now, who has gone on the move. Sicard is a former under-23 world champion. There is Navadauskas still in the lead, 29 seconds with just inside 20 kilometres to go. They're holding on, but I would expect we will see them brought back on the penultimate climb of the day, the Côte d'Aref. Navadauskas, when he gets that gear turning, he looks fantastic on a bike, doesn't he? Absolutely flat back for such a tall rider. Yesterday the Garmin Sharp team were looks like they're giving all their staff some Garmin Sharp branded chocolates, which looked very nice indeed. Navadauskas, a winner of a stage of the Tour of Romandy as well, which is coming up shortly, isn't it? Just about a week or so away. Team time trial winner in the Tour de France, the Giro, the Tour of Qatar, and a stage winner in the Giro in 2013. This year, one win that we mentioned earlier on. So it's this game of cat and mouse going on now as to when this breakaway should be brought back. It looks to me like the peloton are still riding, so at some point they will decide this race will come back together. They've let things sneak out again to 25 seconds, and Van Hecker, with that urgent style, really stamping on the pedals, is managing to maintain the gap, keep things away. 18 kilometres to go in Fleche, Wallonne. Thanks very much for joining me. If you'd like to tweet at @McCrossan, we'll think about who's going to win this race now. Kwiatkowski looks very strong to me. 5th in 2013. He almost looks like he's on one of those days where you're not feeling the pedals at all. Simon Clark is a possible winner for Orica Green Edge. So's Michael Albacini. Betancourt's bound to be there. But look at Kwiatkowski, looking down there, wearing number 41 in the white jersey with the red across the middle. He just looks like he's on a fantastic day. If he can get the run into the finish, absolutely nailed. No real change as we see Katusha still in control. It is really down to them to set the pace at the front of this peloton, with the two previous winners in their squad today. Then in terms of race tactics and the onus being put on another team, it is all about Katusha. They have got to do the work. There'll be all sorts of conversations going on in the team cars between the various team directors, and lots of discussions about, are you going to put a rider up, or am I? Is someone else going to chase? Are you happy to try and contribute to the chase? It's an incredible thing to, if you ever get the chance to sit in the team car, and when racing on one-day classics is going on, just the amount of things that happen, the conversations, the discussions, the tactics that are being played out. And of course, in a race like this, the riders will communicate with their team directors. They'll work out what the race play will be. It will change along the route depending on what happens, but predominantly the team will have a plan. The arrival now of AG2R Le Mondiale in the brown colours. There they are, looking after Carlos Alberto Betancourt. Betancourt, a former white jersey wearer of the Giro d'Italia for the best young rider. Such an emerging talent. He may well have already arrived, but I'm sure there's even bigger things that will happen to Carlos Alberto Betancourt. So look through the peloton. In the blue there is Astana. Red and white Katusha. We're back with the leaders. 23 seconds the advantage now. 16 kilometres to go.
What you mean?
Just picking out a few other riders who are still left in this peloton. Walter Pauls of the Omega Pharma Quick Step team. He's still in here. Right at the back of the group there of Orica Green Edge. We get the chance to take a look there at Simon Clark. Also with him is Cameron Meyer, number 134 there. Number 6 at the back is Joaquim Rodriguez. Surprising to see him so far back, but it may be the injuries that are taking their toll now on him. He said he was finding it very, very difficult to walk, but he can ride a bike. Rory Sutherland brings Chris Anker Sorensen up to the front of the race. Sorensen is a rider who could win this, you know, thinking about it. He's a Grand Tour stage winner. He's a very good climber. He's the one rider in the peloton who looks like he's in tremendous pain for the entire time that he's racing. So the attack really didn't happen on the Mur de Huy, so we're going to see whether there is another springboard. That's the Côte d'Aref, 2.2 kilometres, gradient of 5.9%. That is coming up very, very soon. We go over that. We're going to hit the bottom of it in 2 kilometres. Still these two leaders maintain their advantage, Navadauskas and Preben van Hekke. Navadauskas, the rider from Garmin Sharp, trying to stay away as long as possible to keep Dan Martin in with a nice steady ride into the bottom of the Mur de Huy. Very fast downhill section now. We're hearing over Radio Tour that this gap is going back out again, and it could be up to about 40 seconds. So other riders who've won this race. Maurizio Fondriest, he won this race back in '93. Argentin won it back-to-back in 1990 and 1991. The late great Laurent Fignon was the winner in 1986. Bernardino, 1979 and 1983. And other big winners, Jalabert, Poulidor, Merckx, De Vlaminck and the great Fausto Coppi, all winners of Fleche Wallonne. 13 kilometres to go. The advantage now 27 seconds that we're being shown on screen. Oh, and now Navadauskas is starting to feel the pressure as we hit the penultimate climb of the day. He's been in the lead for a long, long time. About 150 kilometres of an attack for Navadauskas and Preben van Hekke. And now looks like Navadauskas has come back to Preben van Hekke, so they're going to try and ride together. At least get over the top of this one, try and hold it off for a little bit of a run in towards the finish of the Mur de Huy. And now we have the attack of Chris Anker Sorensen of the Tinkoff Saxo team. So Sorensen decides that it's time to go. 12 kilometers remain. This rider is a very, very good bike rider indeed. He's now being tracked immediately by Alexander Kolobnev. And now we get the counter-attack starting to happen as Sorensen looks across and thinks, I was absolutely on my limit then. We are going to bring the leaders back with 12 kilometers of racing to go. Very well done to Van Hecker and Navadauskas. About 160, 150 odd kilometers in the lead. So towards the front now of this race, Gianluca Brambilla of Omega Pharma Quickstep is in there, looking after the interests of Kwiatkowski. Kwiatkowski on his wheel as Moreno. Some big attacks going on now. Looks like Van Endert, followed by Joaquim Rodriguez. Behind them is Brambilla. God, there's some big moves going in. And one rider who goes is Rory Sutherland. He's been dropped after the work he did to put his teammate onto the front place, Chris Anker Sorensen. At the back of the group now is Alberto Lasada. And well done to Preben Van Hecker, who's now out of the race, but a long, long day in the lead. Alexander Kolobnev now looks across. We're getting all the attacks starting to happen here on the front of this race. They are really ripping it up. The fans enjoying this as they go racing past. And we're 500 meters now from the summit of the penultimate climb of the day. We're getting an elite group of riders starting to mass at the front. And Kolobnev is not going to let this one go. He is riding this one down as quickly as he possibly can. So that attack of AG2R and Lotto Belisol is going to be nullified, or is it? Yet again, it is Tim Vellens who has made the move. Sitting second wheel is Gianluca Brambilla of Omega Pharma Quickstep. Also up to near the front is Michael Chirel of AG2R La Mondiale. Valverde's looking good. Kwiatkowski is on his wheel. And at the back of this group is now Tony Gallopin of Lotto Belisol. But they did say, Lotto Belisol, yesterday that they would try and come to the bottom of the final climb of the day with Gallopin, with Van Endert and with Tim Vellens, and they would see if they could sort it out. So far the plan is coming together for them. So this peloton now has got a lot of interesting riders in here. Matteo Montaguti is now looking after Carlos Alberto Betancourt. AG2R move up. Behind Betancourt is Romain Bardet, the French rider, another rider that a few people have mentioned as a possible winner of Fleche Wallonne today. Not far to go now. Who's your money on? Who are you going to pick as a possible winner of Fleche Wallonne, the 78th edition of this magnificent race? All the favourites starting to mass at the front. I noticed Dan Martin being caught out a little bit right at the back of the race now. He's going to have to be brought back forward again if he's going to have any play in the run-in to the finish. Still Gilbert is here. Can he do the double of Amstel Gold and Fleche Wallonne? And of course, add to that the Fleche Brabantcon on Wednesday and suddenly the Belgian rider is having one of the most incredible starts to his year that he's had for quite a while. Fast downhill goes Tim Vellens, followed by Herrada. Behind them is Moreno. Valverde's still there. There's Kwiatkowski in the white with a red stripe across the middle. Rui Costa a little bit further back, the world champion. John Izagiri was the Movistar rider who is having to go round the next Katusha rider. This Katusha rider has got a little bit of a chain issue there, but Herrado setting a very good tempo on the front. Real problem here for one of the riders. This is Losada, who cannot get his chain on at all. Looks like the gears at the back are completely locked up. And he's going to come to a standstill any minute. He just tried to stay with the race if he could. Belkin arriving in numbers over on the right hand side. We haven't even mentioned FDJ today, but here they come, one rider making a move. So FDJ for the first time in this entire race are now being seen at the front of the peloton. We heard earlier on that Janison was the rider who retired earlier. Such a steep little rise up here with 7 kilometers remaining. Through the trees, very dark under there with the sunshine beating down on the riders once they go out of the trees. The race caravan just arriving at the finish line now. Caravan part of the Tour de France. I've just seen Welcome to Yorkshire going past my window. That's going to be where the Grand Départ of the Tour de France is going to be. So Jeremy Waugh now on the attack for the FDJ team. Jeremy Waugh wearing number 126. Good attack from him as he goes clear. Still anyone's race. All the big favourites are still in here. Betancourt, Moreno, Martin, Valverde, Gilbert, Kwiatkowski particularly looks good. So there are still so many riders that can win this race. It's all going to come down to an incredible sprint up the Muur de Huy for the final time. You expect to see a time of somewhere between 2:44 and 2:59 for the final climb of the day. Motorbike losing riders. And still Jeremy Waugh now is on the attack for FDJ. Going fast downhill, looking very, very strong now with 5.5 kilometers to go. Fantastic attack from this rider. Into his aero tuck now. And he's starting to open up a little bit of an advantage on the rest of this peloton. He was a winner of the famed Trobro Lyon in 2010, this rider. 30 years of age as he just tries to hold off the might of this chasing peloton. the gap is starting to open up. On Radio Tour, he's got 10 seconds on this peloton. He needs a little bit more than that. Moreno is still there, looking down on him, wearing number 1 as the previous winner. In front of him is Caruso. Valverde's looking good. And Perito Rodriguez has done some good work today, as now Lotto Belisol arrive. They have got a lot of riders here. Jeremy Waugh, 8 seconds the advantage for the Frenchman. Second on a stage of Paris-Nice back in 2009. Second on a stage of the Tour de France in 2008. He has won some very good races though. Now it's AG2R who are trying to bring this race back together. The advantage still 8 seconds. They sense a possible win for Carlos Alberto Betancourt, the former white jersey of the Giro d'Italia, the rider who finished on the podium last year where Moreno took the win. Sergio Henao was second. Betancourt was in third place. 3.7 kilometres to go. Not long now as Jeremy Waugh tries to hold on. 5 seconds now. The advantage for the Frenchman as he looks for any possible shortcut. Goes to the right-hand side of the road for the quickest line to the finish. The cavalry all spread out behind him. It's not going to happen this time. Lotto Belisol arriving in numbers, so are Belkin. Belkin have got some great riders in this race. We've hardly even mentioned them. Maybe they've got everything absolutely right for today. They were going to go, oh, big crash on the right-hand side of the peloton. A massive crash as 3 or 4 riders hit the deck. And one of the riders who is left there from Orica Green Edge, I'm not sure if it was Simon Clark, but here we go. Big crash on the right-hand side. It was the Lampre rider who hit the deck first, and that was of Damiano Cunego. Cunego hits the deck. Also held up is Frank Schleck. He's not very happy at all with that. Cunego, just at the prime position, goes and hits the deck on the run into the Mur de Huy. Schleck is also held up and he looked disgusted with that. It might have been Albacini, I'm not entirely sure as to, didn't get a good glimpse of the Orica Green Edge rider who was on the deck as well. But now swooshing their way through these fast turns into the base of the Mur de Huy. It is going to be a setup now for AG2R, Le Mondiale, Carlos Alberto Betancourt in prime position with Michael Charel setting the tempo on the front. Lotto Belisol with many riders also here moving up on the wheels. Here comes really high tempo now. Angel Vicioso. Here comes on the other side for the Garmin Sharp team. Looked like Nathan Haas was coming through. Haas does hit the front. Now it's Orica Green Edge. It isn't Orica Green Edge. Still have Albacini in here. Albacini looking good as they go into the bottom corner. What an incredible bit of work done by the Orica Green Edge team as they look to try and set Albacini up to take the victory. On the wheel there is Carlos Alberto Betancourt, followed by Danny Moreno, followed by the rider from the Belkin team, Lars Petter Nordag, the Norwegian. So it's going to be an absolutely thrilling run into the finish as we see Cameron Meyer, the Australian, who has set a relentless pace. Now Valverde arrives. 1 kilometre to go now. We're going to see the run into the finish. Gilbert wearing number 91. He's a little bit further back as Vincenzo Nibali gets onto the wheel of Gilbert. Here comes the arrival now of Dan Martin at the front. And the tempo really now is increased. And it's Romain Bardet who goes on the attack now. Romain Bardet of AG2R, Le Mondiale, puts it into a little gear. Now he's going to thrust the throttle a little bit more as he tries to go away. This will take the pressure off Carlos Alberto Betancourt, but many people said that Romain Bardet may be a possible winner of today's race. It is now down to Gianpaolo Caruso. He's going to try and chase down Romain Bardet, who's still looking good on the climb. Behind them is Valverde. Valverde on the wheel. Betancourt is there. Gilbert looks a little bit more under pressure today than he did on Sunday, but don't take that as a possibility that he won't take the victory. Valverde's looking good. Balcomolimo is also here. Here comes Kwiatkowski. Kwiatkowski is there. Oh, there's almost crashes. Two riders leaning on each other. Kreuziger is still here. Kreuziger is here for the Tinkoff team. And now the move comes from the Trek Factory racing team, and I think it's Arredondo of Trek Factory Racing who's there. So it's Valverde. Arredondo wearing number 102. He's this squat little rider. He's a possible winner of this race for Trek Factory Racing, as it's going to be a real showdown. Look at the number of fans on the Muur de Hoy now. Dan Martin's trying to go with the moves. Kreuziger is still there. They took the pressure off him. Now Kwiatkowski goes. Kwiatkowski with Arredondo. Behind them is Tom Jelter Slagter. Balcomolimo, Roman Kreuziger, Vincenzo Nibali, Dan Martin. Kwiatkowski now goes on the attack. The Polish champion thrusts forward. Here comes Dan Martin. Martin is going with the acceleration of Kwiatkowski. It's going to be a real showdown as they go past the Union flags. Martin's going after Kwiatkowski now. Dan Martin getting onto the wheel now of Kwiatkowski. Here comes Valverde. Valverde's looking for the acceleration. We've got 100 metres to go to the line. Alejandro Valverde and Dan Martin sprinting their way to the top of the Muur de Hoy. Valverde is going for the victory now. Alejandro Valverde, the winner of this race in 2006. He's hardly been off the podium this year. Valverde wins. Dan Martin of Garmin Sharp is in second place. Kwiatkowski in third. Molimo in fourth. Slagter in fifth. Also up there is Kreuziger. Gilbert's a little bit further back, but it was a big win from Alejandro Valverde. Arredondo crosses the line now. It's not going to be the double for Philippe Gilbert. He left a lot on the road in Amstel Gold on Sunday. What a thrilling finish. Movistar got that absolutely perfect today. They did everything they had to do. Valverde has won already this year 7 races. It's his 8th victory of the 2014 season. He's won some big ones, but this is the biggest one this season so far. You'll notice he's wearing number 51 today. It is the fabled number of international cycling. Look at this, here we go. Kwiatkowski was on the drop suddenly. I don't know whether he had the gears to go with the acceleration. Valverde went. Dan Martin, with 100 metres to go, realised just was not to be. But considering he had knee trouble during the Amstel Gold at the weekend, Dan Martin has now moved from 6th in 2012, 4th in 2013 to 2nd and on the podium in 2014. He was, of course, a winner of Liège-Bastogne-Liège, but
for it. He knew that.
Muur de Hoy. Valverde takes the glory today. You can see the exertions, the sweat all over these riders. It's been such a hot day. Kwiatkowski, I don't know whether he jumped gears or something, but he looked good and then suddenly he was no longer there. The sprint for the line, Kwiatkowski just trying to hold on for 3rd place. Confirmation then of the result. 4 hours 36 minutes and 45 seconds of racing. Valverde wins. Dan Martin of Ireland in 2nd place. Kwiatkowski of Poland in 3rd. Molimo in 4th. Slagter, Van Endert, Albacini, Kreuziger, Moreno and Gilbert at 15 seconds.